Hello students, I am Dr. Nilanjana Bhattacharyya Nath, and today I am having a small session, we can say a mini class. This is a suggestive class for your upcoming exam, and today's topic is how to solve pedigree easily. Okay, so let's start. So as we all know, basically pedigree, we can be divided the pedigree into two broad categories. One is the autosomal part, another is the X-linked part. So autosome and X-linked further subdivided into two categories. One is recessive, another is dominant. So there are four basic criteria, that is autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, X-linked recessive, X-linked dominant. So these four are the major pedigree types. Other than these four, there are other pedigrees, for example, Y-linked pedigree, for example, mitochondrial pedigree, etc. So first and foremost thing is to how to determine or how to detect pedigree. When you will have the question paper in your upcoming exam, and if you will have a pedigree, first we need to identify the pedigree. What type of pedigree it is? It is a autosomal pedigree or it is an X-linked pedigree. Then the next determination is whether the pedigree is autosomal recessive or dominant, otherwise whether it is X-linked recessive or dominant. So the first part, we need to determine whether it is autosomal or X-linked. So this is the most important thing, that in case of X-linked disorders or the mutation related to the X-linked part, most of the males in the pedigree are affected. Please remember this, most of the males in the pedigrees are affected whenever the disorder or mutation is related to X-linked gene. And the next one, that is autosomal disorder or mutation related to autosomes, there is the ratio 50-50. That means total number of individuals present within the pedigree, 50% male and 50% female, nearly equal amount of males and females are affected due to the autosomal disorder. Next, the dominant and recessive part. Whether it will be dominant pedigree or whether it will be recessive one. So, if the disorder is dominant, one of the parents must have the disorder. Hopefully students, you remembered in my class, I have repeatedly told you, any one of the parents must have that particular disorder or the affected allele, then only their children, they will get that affected allele from their parents. And this is the dominant disorder. Another most important thing, please remember, in case of dominant disorder, parents always, they are heterozygous. Because if they are homozygous dominant, then it will be obvious that all the offspring in F1, they are affected. So practically it is not possible. So all the cases related to dominant pedigree, parents are heterozygous dominant. And the next one, if the disorder is recessive, neither parent has to have the disorder because they can be heterozygous. Yes, in case of recessive pedigree, there are two options. Either any one of the parent is homozygous recessive, so it is obvious then the next generation, the next offsprings, they will have one recessive allele from that particular parent and the normal allele or the dominant one from the another parent. And the second option is both the parent is heterozygous, so it is obvious any one of the child, he or she will receive that two recessive allele individually from his or her both of the parents. Then he or she will be affected individual. Now these are the specific cases. First one, autosomal recessive. How will you identify the pedigree is a autosomal recessive disorder related pedigree? So the first one, the affected individual or affected trait, they appear in both the sexes with equal frequency. As we are dealing with autosomes, so it is obvious there is no sex determination. So both the sexes, both the offsprings for both male and female, they will be affected equally. Next one, trait tend to skip generation. That means it is not necessary that all the generations and all the offsprings, they will be affected for that particular trait. Third one, affected offspring are usually born to unaffected parents. Just I have mentioned it that in case of autosomal recessive or any kind of recessive, the parents may be heterozygous but they are normal. And whenever they are heterozygous, it is obvious that they are having one normal dominant allele and one mutant recessive allele. And that mutant recessive allele is responsible for that particular trait or particular disorder. And when their next generation, maybe their son, maybe their daughter, they will receive both the recessive allele from their, one from his or her father and another from his or her mother, then he or she will be the affected one. When both parents are heterozygous, approximately 1/4, you can say 25% of the progeny will be affected. Next, another case, that is autosomal dominant. Here also same thing, as I am talking about the autosomal pedigree. Both the sexes are equally affected. Both sexes transmit the trait to their offspring, does not skip generation. So this is the difference between autosomal recessive and autosomal dominant. Whether the pedigree is related to autosomal dominant, then you can see all the generations, they are having either one or more than the one affected individual. Affected offspring must have an affected parent unless they possess a new mutation. This is another difference and this is very important. Whether we are talking about autosomal dominant, please remember any one of the parents, he or she, that means father or mother, must have one dominant allele. And that dominant allele is the mutant allele, and that mutant allele is responsible for that particular disorder or disease. Okay? So when one parent is affected, the other parent is normal, unaffected. So half of the progeny will be affected. And now the X-linked. So we all know X-linked disorder or X-linked inheritance solely controlled by the X chromosome. And we all know females are having 2X and males are having 1X and 1Y. So X is very important for X-linked inheritance. So first is the X-linked dominant. So both males and females are affected. Often more females than males are affected in case of X-linked dominant. No skip of generation. Affected sons must have an affected mother and affected daughters must have either an affected mother or an affected father. This point is very important because affected son always receives only one X from his mother because they receive Y from their father. So this X is very important for the male child. All the male child, they will be affected if their mother is carrying one affected X chromosome. And in case of daughters, they will receive one X from their mother and another X from their father. So it is obvious either their mother or their father will provide that affected X to their daughters. Okay? So affected mothers, if heterozygous, will pass the trait to half of their sons and half of their daughters. So mother is basically playing the main part in the X-linked inheritance because mother is having 2X chromosome. So both the offspring, whether they are male or whether they are female, they will receive at least one X from their mother. And the last one, the important one, that is X-linked recessive. So as the name implies, X-linked recessive, so it is obvious the recessive allele is the mutant allele and it is responsible for that particular disease or disorder or any kind of abnormalities. So in this case, more males than females are affected. And here in this particular case, Not in this particular case, both the recessive case, autosomal recessive as well as X-linked recessive, you will get the carrier female. So what do you mean by carrier female? Carrier females are those, they are having one recessive allele along with one normal dominant allele, but they are basically normal unaffected individual. But the carrier mother is carrying one mutant or affected allele. And their children, mainly their male child, when he or they receive that particular X from their mother, they will be the affected one. Okay, so that is the reason more males are affected than that of the females in this particular case. And another name it has, we can also say the X-linked inheritance, X-linked recessive inheritance as the crisscross inheritance, because the pattern of inheritance is father, daughter, grandson. It means father is affected, he is having one recessive allele. From the father, his daughter receives the one recessive allele and she is normal but carrier. And when that daughter, she will be the mother, her son or male child will be the affected one. So this is the pattern of the inheritance. That is why it is known as crisscross inheritance. Approximately half of carrier mother's sons are affected. It is never passed from father to son, obviously, because all male child receive only Y from their father, not the X. This is the main reason. Okay? And the last one, but not the least, these two are the another varieties, Y-linked and mitochondrial. As the name implies, Y-linked, so the mutation or abnormalities are there in the Y chromosome. And as we all know, all the male child receive the Y chromosome from their father, so it is solely controlled by the Y chromosome, and the characters or the traits or the disorders transmitted from father to son. For example, baldness, for example, hair on the ear pinna, these are the Y-linked disorders. And the last one, mitochondrial inheritance. So mitochondrial inheritance, as we all know, the zygote's mitochondria, zygote receives the mitochondria from the ovum. It means the mitochondrial inheritance is solely controlled by the mother, because all the offsprings, whatever they are male or female, they receive the whole cell part, cytoplasm and other organelles from their mother only. So if mitochondria, it has any affected gene or it has any kind of abnormality, it means all the offsprings, they are affected. Okay, so this is the short portion. I think it will be helpful for your upcoming exam, and all the best students for your exam. Don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. Thank you.